Not all Pokemon types are created equal, and if you've played competitive before, you'll notice this. Fairy, Steel, and Ground types are absolutely everywhere, while Ice types and Bug types are nowhere to be seen. Pokemon's type chart is very unbalanced, and it feels like the lower tier types have been getting screwed for generations at this point. Why don't we take a good look at some of these lower end Pokemon types? What makes them so terrible? And can we find any examples where Pokemon of these types are actually functional? What does it take to be viable when you possess one of the worst types in the game? Let's find out. Now, when you think of a bad Pokemon type, I'm sure the first one that comes to mind is probably the Ice type. A type with so many active disadvantages, it's kind of crazy. Being an Ice type in the Pokemon world is a terrible experience. It is a cold and lonely experience. The Ice type has an unfortunate 4 weaknesses. That's a lot of weaknesses. And these are bad weaknesses. Fighting, Fire, Rock, and Steel. These are types that you see commonly in competitive. And Rock weakness in particular is the worst because Ice types are adversely affected by Stealth Rock and general Rock coverage, which is everywhere. What do they have to show for all these weaknesses? Nothing. Because they only have a single resistance to Ice itself. They have no resistances and are weak to various common attacking types. Being an Ice type feels like an active detriment for most Pokemon that are Ice type. It is dreadful. But the silver lining to being an Ice type is that Ice is excellent offensively. Of course, if you have a type, you will gain bonus damage for moves of that type, and that is an advantage if you're an Ice type, because the Ice type super effectively hits Dragon, Grass, Ground, and Flying. The best thing about being an Ice type is access to stab Ice damage, which is very good. And in some cases, it can actually make up for all of the defensive shortcomings of being an Ice type. Ice types have a very narrow path to success, because with a type so extremely good offensively but so terrible defensively, what do you know? The best Ice types are offensive Pokemon. And they have to be really, really good offensive Pokemon that are fast, with high stats, that can take advantage of that Ice step. This leads to a little bit of a dilemma with the Ice types, where they are often either so good that they're overpowered, or so terrible that they're never seen. It's a very extreme type. In Gen 9, there are multiple banned Ice types, like Qianpao, who is very fast, with a high attack stat, and an ability that lowers the enemy's defense. Qianpao is overpowered. There is also Baxcalibur, who may not be fast, but has access to Dragon Dance, and with its massive attack stat is incredibly threatening. Baxcalibur is overpowered. Iron Bundle is certainly overpowered. This thing is fast, powerful, and has access to Freeze Dry, which makes Ice type even better offensively, now hitting Water type super effectively, which usually resists Ice. So it might be weird to call Ice one of the worst types, when here are some extremely powerful Pokemon that are Ice types. But when you look at Ice type as a whole, it is overall a detriment to be an Ice type unless you are this specific type of Pokemon. And then, if you're this specific type of Pokemon, you're usually too good to be allowed in OU. It's very difficult to find a balanced Ice type. A normal Ice type that feels reasonable. And the type is extremely limited in its potential. They keep designing defensive Ice types and it just never works. Like Avalugg. How is Avalugg supposed to work? Hisuian Avalugg is even worse because it's also a Rock type. You simply cannot make a defensive Pokemon that is an Ice type, because all of its traits are geared towards offense in an extreme capacity. The only OU ranked Ice type in Gen 9 is Kyurem, at the moment anyway. Kyurem is a legendary Pokemon, a Dragon Ice type that has fantastic stats, great offenses in both attack and special attack, and many different ways it can be used, with Dragon Dance sets, Icicle Spear loaded dice sets to get the most out of multi-hit damage. Mixed attacking sets are very good, as you have high offenses on both sides of the spectrum and many different options like Draco Meteor, Earth Power, Freeze Dry, etc. And Dragon Dance makes up for Kyurem's lower than average speed stats. Kyurem is OU, but it's also kind of bordering on overpowered. Gen 9 is a high power level metagame, and I would scarcely call this a balanced Pokemon. It is deemed acceptable for the OU format because it was suspect tested and not banned, but a lot of people think that was a mistake, and that it should be tested again. A Pokemon this diverse and this offensively threatening with that outstanding stab ice damage and freeze dry to make ice type even more threatening, hitting more types, is overwhelming. It's an overwhelming Pokemon. It's Pokemon like Kyurem and all of the banned ice types in Uber that make me disagree with the idea that ice is the worst type in the game. It's certainly among the worst. Being an ice type is probably bad, and there are more examples of dreadful ice types than good ones, but sometimes being an ice type is incredibly advantageous if you are the right kind of Pokemon with the right tools. Kyurem is proof of that. Now, besides Kyurem, are there any other functional ice types in the OU format? Yes, there are. Although Weavile is currently ranked in the UU tier, a bit of a fall from grace for a historically great competitive Pokemon, it is still absolutely a viable choice in OU. Weavile is exactly what I'm talking about. It is a fast, offensively threatening ice type, and a perfect example of what a functional competitive ice type looks like. It's also a rare example of one that feels pretty reasonable. Weavile is not overpowered, in fact it's not even ranked OU at the moment. 120 base attack seems to be a good sweet spot, where it is very offensively threatening, but not so much that it's impossible to switch in against or anything. It's manageable, it's reasonable. 125 base speed is also pretty high. It's on the higher end for OU Pokemon, but some things do outrun it and are able to revenge KO it. And pretty much anything with a choice scarf will outrun this, meaning there are common ways to switch something in and revenge KO Weavile. Weavile itself does not commonly run a choice scarf, preferring offensive items or the boots to reduce its weakness to hazards. In just the last generation, Gen 8, Weavile was one of the best offensive Pokemon in the metagame. In Gen 9, though, there's a bit more competition. Iron Valiant is a big one. Iron Valiant is a similar fast but frail offensive threat, but its typing is way better. Fairy Fighting, which is good offensively and defensively. It has access to Booster Energy, which is a perfect item for a Pokemon like this. It's a consumable that just usually raises its speed stat temporarily. And that basically gives this the benefit of a choice scarf, like a consumable choice scarf, but without any of the drawback. Iron Valiant is generally a more desirable choice. Weavile has the benefit of Stab Knockoff and Ice Stab as well. Ice Shard for priority, Swords Dance to boost up. But Iron Valiant doesn't need to run boots, it doesn't need to do more heavy lifting to make up for a poor defensive typing. It's a way easier Pokemon to just throw on a team. There is also Cinderace, who is kind of a similar Pokemon too, another fast offensive threat. Cinderace, though, has more utility. Cinderace has options like Will-O-Wisp and Court Change and U-Turn for pivoting. Weavile may have knockoff, but Cinderace is a little bit better at maintaining momentum. And of course there is Dragapult, who also has a superior typing defensively, is even faster, which is huge. Also has Will-O-Wisp, also has pivoting. Dragapult is a more consistent Pokemon than Weavile. Even a historically great Pokemon like Weavile falling off a bit does show the detriment of being an Ice type. Even though it has those offensive advantages, it's kind of getting destroyed by Pokemon that have both offense and defense at once a little bit. Not that Iron Valiant is a defensive behemoth or anything, but its typing helps a lot. It has immunities and good resistances, and it's resistant to rock. So Iron Valiant is just cleaner and easier to use on a team. It shows the value of a good defensive typing, whereas Weavile is under more fire. Being an Ice type just brings with it so much risk, and Weavile has always been one of the more viable Ice types, and even it has kind of fallen out of favor. Do any other Ice types function in OU? Well, Alola Ninetales is certainly one to consider. Alola Ninetales is probably the best Pokemon in the game at setting snow on the field, at least from the snow warning ability, because there is the move Chilly Reception, which can set snow on the field too. But Alola Ninetales sets snow on the field as soon as it switches in, allowing it to activate Weather Synergy on other Pokemon. And the new Snow Weather effect was kind of an attempt to buff the Ice type. Ice types do get the benefit of a boosted defense stat in the snow, which is something. And snow was part of the recipe that made Baxcalibur a little bit overwhelming back in the day, because Baxcalibur alongside Alola Ninetales was very powerful. Alola Ninetales also has access to the excellent utility move Aurora Veil, which only works in the snow, and it serves the purpose of Light Screen and Reflect at the same time. All damage to your allies is halved for 5 turns while Aurora Veil is active. And this can be a great way to enable offensive strategies. With an incredible halved damage from incoming attacks, boost sweepers can set up much more safely, abuse terrestrialization for more defensive benefit, getting more free turns, and at some stages in the Gen 9 OU metagame, this was a very good Pokemon and a very good strategy. Beyond that, Ninetales is an Ice Fairy type itself, and although being an Ice type has so many detriments, it's paired with maybe the best type in the game, Fairy, so it has some resistances and immunities that other Ice types do not. That helps greatly. For Ninetales Alola, you have Freeze Dry on this, which is a very good move, and it's got Snow plus Blizzard. That's alright. Blizzard being perfectly accurate in the snow. Alola Ninetales is currently ranked in the PU tier, not very popular in OU at the moment, but this is a Pokemon that offers something in OU. It's rather unique, and it being an Ice type is kind of a good thing. It has the offensive benefit of the perfectly accurate Blizzard. It gives itself a defense boost with its own Snow, and it supports other Ice types. So Alola Ninetales certainly does have competitive merit. Now the big problem with Alola Ninetales is that to benefit from its Snow and set Snow on the field, you need to spend an entire Pokemon slot to do that. And Galarian Slowking, on the other hand, is just a great Pokemon on its own, used all the time in Gen 9 OU. And Galarian Slowking uses the move Chilly Reception just for general pivoting, just to switch out of the field. The fact that that move sets Snow on the field is just a bonus. So the fact that this great Pokemon can just set Snow by, living its life normally, whereas Alola Ninetales requires much more to set Snow. You gotta put a whole Pokemon on your team. That kind of makes it hard to justify using this guy when Galarian Slowking is right there and is so much better. Alola Ninetales is also furious at the rise of Iron Crown in the metagame, who has the move Tachyon Cutter, which ends Alola Ninetales' career in an instant. Why did that have to happen? Why did Iron Crown have to rise? A terrible trend for Alola Ninetales Nation. But even still, it does have unique merit. It can set Aurora Veil and such. Galarian Slowking cannot do that. So it's a Ice type worth talking about. Now you'll start to notice that I am really struggling to even find any more Ice types worth discussing. I don't think Abomasnow has much of a place in the metagame anymore. And if you search Ice in the builder and just look at the Pokemon available, you will really start to see what I'm talking about, where ZU seems to be the home of Ice types. There's many of them here, and they all stink. They're all very bad. Is there any worth talking about? Perhaps Frostmoth is worth considering, because I did see a team recently where Frostmoth was used and got an okay ladder rating. I made a video about that in the past. Frostmoth is an Ice Bug type Pokemon, which is maybe the worst type combo in the game. But it has the amazing ability Ice Scales, which halves incoming damage from special attacks. This is one of the best abilities ever. And it also has Quiver Dance, the Volcarona move, to boost its special attack, special defense, and speed in a single turn. An amazing boost. And with Ice Stab and Quiver Dance and this incredible defensive ability, it can be a sweeper, maybe. You can also run Boots to ignore hazards, which is very good. I believe the Frostmoth team I'm thinking of was running Terra Electric Frostmoth with Terra Blast to gain electric coverage that way for the fantastic Bolt Beam coverage combo. And Frostmoth perfectly exemplifies one of the reasons that Ice is truly a terrible type, because the only reason I'm even talking about Frostmoth whatsoever at the moment is because it has the ability to change itself from Ice into a different type. Terrestrialization is one of the best things that has ever happened to Ice types, because it means that they don't have to be an Ice type anymore. Ice types get way better when you transform into something else. It's sort of this paradoxical point, isn't it? That Ice types got way better when they could stop being Ice types. Like, what am I even saying? What is that even... What am I even talking about? Being terrible is good because if you can stop being terrible, oh yeah. But the thing about terrestrialization is that when you become the new type, you keep the stab damage of your old types. So Ice types in particular benefit from Terra because they get to keep Ice stab, but they don't have all those damn weaknesses. So Frostmoth here, without terrestrialization, would be big nothing. It would be nobody. And that's what it was in Gen 8. And it still stinks, by the way. It still stinks. I'm not saying that it's any good or anything. It was used on one team. And if I remember correctly, the fellow who made that team was just challenging themselves to try Frostmoth and make it work. So it wasn't even like they arrived at Frostmoth for a genuine reason because it was really good or something. It was like Wouldn't it be crazy if I won with Frostmoth? Wouldn't that be a challenge? Because of how terrible it is. So yes, the ice type is really struggling to exist whatsoever in any capacity. With few exceptions that play to the type's strengths, like Weavile, but you can see that even Weavile is falling off as offensive Pokemon with more options and actual defensive merit are outclassing it. Up next, we of course have the Bug type. Another type infamous for being really bad. Thematically, it sort of makes sense. A little bug is not a very powerful being. You can crush it under your foot, and it will perish. In the Pokemon universe, this was adapted very well, as a mere slight breeze will defeat any bug type. Bug types are weak to flying type, fire type, and rock type. Not as many weaknesses as the ice type, but still that damning rock weakness and vulnerability to two common and good attacking types in fire and flying. Bug typing does grant you some resistances though. Being a bug type does come with some benefits. You have a fighting resistance, that's a good one, a grass resistance that comes in handy, and most importantly of all, a ground resistance. This is the best defensive trait of being a bug type. I suppose a cockroach is good at surviving an earthquake. I don't know what the logical justification is for bug resisting ground. Resisting grass makes sense. They live amongst the grass. They would certainly not be threatened by grass. They are very comfortable with grass. Resistance to fighting, though, has always been a weird one. Why does a bug resist fighting? I don't know. Are they pacifists by nature? Maybe they are so small that you can't hit them? There's many theories. But anyway, being a bug type is defensively better than being an ice type. And yet, they are similarly bad. Being a bug type does not bode well for your competitive success. Most bug types are very low ranked, and being a bug type seems like an active detriment. Now, how could bug typing be worse than ice typing when bug typing actually has some good resistances? Well, if we're being honest, 3 resistances is really not that many. The weaknesses are bad, and then offensively bug is also lackluster. Offensively bug is okay, you have super effective damage against dark and psychic and grass types, that's alright, but so many types resist bug, it's kind of insane. Bug damage is not very effective against fire, fighting, poison, flying, ghost, steel, and fairy. And many of those, you wonder why the hell they chose to kick bugs while they were down and add that resistances. The fairy resistance is the most infamous. Many have called into question, why does fairy resist bug? Fairy is good enough, and logically speaking, is a mystical fairy from the forest. Are they resistant to bugs? I mean, I suppose they do live amongst bugs, maybe. Now that I think about it, maybe a fairy in the forest would be equipped to handle bugs. It would be part of daily life. Okay, never mind, I'd take it back. It makes a lot of logical sense. But still, the point stands that bugs are struggling offensively. It is overall just a low-quality type with significant defensive shortcoming and little offensive firepower to make up for that. At least ice types are more extreme in both areas. They are dreadful defensively, even worse, but offensively they are great. Bug is not great in any area. It's bad in all areas. So what does it take to be a viable bug type in OU? Well, it's an interesting question. There is currently one single OU-ranked bug type in the game, and it is the most historically successful bug type ever, Scizor. Scizor is known for being a bug type that overcomes all the shortcomings of being a bug type. Now, how do you overcome being a bug? It's simple. When your second type is really good, you can get away with being a bug type, because Scizor is a bug steel type. Bug on its own is dreadful. Bug paired with steel is one of the best type combos in the game. They complement each other perfectly. Steel removes pretty much all of the dreadful weaknesses from bug. Steel resists flying, removing that weakness. They resist rock, removing that weakness. And bug complements steel, actually, because of the fighting and ground resistances, which steel is usually weak to. The end result is a typing where you have plenty of resistances on your own. You're immune to poison as well, immune to sand, and neutral to rocks. And you only have a single weakness to fire. Now, it's a ×4 weakness to fire, but it's a manageable weakness. And having less weaknesses that hurt you more is better than having multiple weaknesses. I would say. Bug Steel typing is excellent, and therefore Scizor is a great Pokemon. And Scizor is the best of the Bug Steel types because the typing is great defensively and its stats are good enough to take advantage of that. Plus, offensively, it has a lot to offer. It has the excellent ability Technician, boosting the power of moves with 60 base power or less, and that synergizes perfectly with Bullet Punch, the 40 power priority steel type attack. Scizor also carries with it plenty of great offensive tools like Swords Dance to boost itself up, Close Combat for coverage, Knockoff for further coverage, U-Turn for Bug Stab that also pivots. Interestingly though, Scizor was not always ranked OU in Gen 9. In fact, Scizor kind of fell off initially in Gen 9, as it lost some of its greatest options, particularly Roost. Losing Roost was a big deal for Scizor. The reason Scizor has returned to the forefront recently is because it is a great Pokemon at handling Kyurem. I spoke just a moment ago about how Kyurem is pretty difficult to deal with. Scizor is one of the few things that can deal with it, because it has an ice resistance and ground neutrality, plus stab Bullet Punch with priority to threaten Kyurem super effectively. So that means it fits well in the metagame right now. Priority is generally useful in this format for handling the fast threats. You do super effective damage also to Iron Valiant. You're a pretty good answer to Dragonite if they're not carrying Fire Punch. So Scizor has always been an outlier in the case of bug types. A functional bug type, because Bug is a great recipe alongside Steel type to create one of the best type combos in the game. In a case like this, the Bug typing is not really a detriment, it's actually pulling its weight and providing important resistances to complement Steel typing. So Scizor has always been the picturesque poster child of what a viable Bug type looks like, and how Bug type can serve a great purpose. The Gen 9 games have also introduced one of my favorite designs for a Bug type in a very long time, and that is Low Kicks. Because Low Kicks was designed around the advantages of Bug type in an offensive sense, which is a difficult thing to do. I just spoke about how many things resist Bug type. That makes offensive Bug types kind of difficult. Even Scizor you just saw doesn't always use its Bug coverage. If it's using above moves, it's probably U-turn for the purpose of pivoting. Low Kicks, on the other hand, is designed to take advantage of its Bug moves to the highest level, because Low Kicks has the ability Tinted Lens. A few different Bug types get this, and Tinted Lens is an ability that will mean that if an enemy is resisting your attack, they take double damage, basically cancelling out the resistance. You do double damage to resisted targets. So all those types that resist Bug, you're now dealing basically neutral damage to all those. A huge buff to a Bug type. It's the perfect offensive ability for a Bug type. But the Pokemon that Tinted Lens is on usually are kind of bad. They are often special attackers too, and special attacking Bug type moves are not always the strongest. But Bug is known for having two incredible physical attacks to its name. U-Turn is the most famous. U-Turn is one of the best attacks in Pokemon, and it's a Bug type attack. It's a simple 70 power physical attack that pivots you out after dealing damage. This combination of damage and the momentum of switching with information of what your opponent does is a staple of competitive Pokemon. It's one of the best moves ever created. And many Pokemon use this whether they're Bug type or not, whether it's dealing damage or not. It's just good to deal damage and pivot out. Low Kicks here, with the Tinted Lens ability, deals more damage with U-Turn than almost anything, and it's consistent high damage because resistances don't matter. The other great Bug type attack Low Kicks has access to is First Impression. First Impression is an amazing attack. It is a 90 power, 100% accurate attack with priority, which is an incredibly high power priority move. The catch is that it only works on the first turn that you switch in. It's a very hit and run move. It only works once on the first turn, and then you have to switch out and back in to activate it again. Fake Out has the same mechanic. First Impression is also limited by the fact that it is Bug type. So many things resist Bug, so this move usually doesn't feel that strong actually, because there's plenty of counterplay to it, and it only works once. But Low Kicks, every time it comes in, is going to have this huge First Impression to click that is difficult to switch in against because all the resistances are being ignored. Choice Band Low Kicks is actually one of the most powerful breakers in the game, and one of my favorites, because it just has all these safe clicks that hit everything thanks to Tinted Lens. If you want a more consistent form of bug stab, there's also Leech Life, which has 80 power and a healing effect. It's sort of like Drain Punch. Low Kicks may be ranked UU, but I think it's very viable in OU and a lot of great teams use it. And it is a breaker that a lot of players gravitate towards because of how consistently it threatens the entire game thanks to Tinted Lens. Now, it's kind of funny that for bug types to function offensively, you just erase the reason they're bad, which is all the resistances. Tinted Lens cancels all those out. But it's the truth. This does enhance the bug type enough offensively for it to be quite functional and quite powerful. And bug type attacks are good. U-turn and first impression are amazing attacks that are benefiting so much from Tinted Lens. And the final real reason that bug types are sometimes seen in competitive singles is because they have access to the move Sticky Web. The day that they give Sticky Web to Pokemon that aren't bug types is the day that bug types fall off a cliff forever. As some non-bug types do get Sticky Web, but it's very rare. Most Pokemon that get Sticky Web are bug types. Sticky Web is an entry hazard that lowers speed of grounded foes by 1 on switch in, and it's an amazing entry hazard that you can build offensive strategies around. By lowering all of the enemy Pokemon's speeds, your team just has more initiative, they attack first, offense gets better. It's that simple. Araquanid here was actually OU ranked for quite a while for being the best Sticky Web setter in the OU metagame, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? Araquanid is one of my favorite bug type designs ever. I love it. Visually awesome, and it has some really unique stuff. It's a water bug type with the ability Water Bubble, which is unique to it, and a really, really strong ability. This grants double power to water moves, burn immunity, and a fire resistance, all in one. It's doing a lot in one ability. But it balances out because Araquanid's stats are pretty weak, especially its offensive stats. But this ability grants so much bonus damage to water moves that even with a 50 special attack, this Surf is hitting really hard. Conveniently, Araquanid's ground and fighting resistance means it matches up well against Great Tusk, and with this Water Bubble boosted Surf, you threaten Great Tusk with a one-hit KO. So the number one rapid spinner of the metagame is threatened by you. Same deal with Iron Treads, who is also threatened by you. And Araquanid with its special bulk is able to live many hits Sticky Web and then activate Snapberry next turn. In doing so, it can click Endeavor and then bring the enemy low so that a ally can follow up and KO them easily, as they've been brought to a very low amount of HP. Araquanid just has a good combination of traits for OU right now. Threatening the bulky grounds, threatens Gliscor, Great Tusk, Iron Treads, with this Water Bubble boosted Surf, and it's just really good at setting Sticky Web turn 1 thanks to its bulk. It's not OU ranked anymore, unfortunately. Maybe the Sticky Web archetype is just falling out of favor in general, but it is still very good in OU because it has Sticky Web. If not for this, it would suck, of course, but it's just very few things get Sticky Web and most of them are bug types, so it gives bug types something to do at least, I suppose. There's also Rabombi, who has at certain points been the other popular Sticky Web setter of OU. It's a bug fairy type, which is a great typing, much like how Alolan Ninetales benefits a lot from that fairy typing. Just chucking fairy type on a Pokemon is never bad. You get dragon immunity and some great resistances. Rabombi is fast, and it has Stab Moonblast, which one-hit KOs Great Tusk. And it's that simple. It's fast, it's Sticky Web, and threatens Great Tusk. That's kind of about it. It also has Skill Swap to get rid of Magic Bounce Hatterene, if you want to do that. That's funny. There is Galvantula, who is another option for a Sticky Web setter. I don't see this one very often, but you can sort of consider it because it has Compound Eyes, which increases accuracy, and it has an Accurate Thunder, as well as Volt Switch, which is something. It's probably worse than Rabombi overall, but it's something. And then there's Leavanny. There was a Leavanny team once on a Sun squad because Leavanny gets Chlorophyll, granting double speed in the sun. So it kind of serves the purpose of both the Sticky Web setter and a weird sun threat with... It was using... What was it? Not Eject button. Jetpack. Eject Pack. This one. If your stat stages are lowered, you will switch immediately. It uses Leaf Storm Eject Pack because Leaf Storm will hit, lower their own special attack, then they pivot out. Turns Leaf Storm into a one-time pivot move. That's pretty good with speed. Triple Axle hits Gliscor and Dragapult and stuff. And then Low Kick hits King Gambit. So it's like a bit of roll compression here with Sticky Web and these offensive tools. Now, the bug typing you could literally just erase and this would be an objectively better Pokemon, right? No bug stab being used. I guess maybe it uses the fighting resistance, but it would much rather not be rock weak. If this was just a grass type, the Pokemon goes to the moon. Its bug typing is an active detriment, but it's still a bug type that was used on one team to success, and that's something, certainly. That is certainly something. Now, the final terrible type in competitive Pokemon is, regrettably, the normal type. Being a normal type is generally bad. And there are currently 0 OU-ranked normal types in the game. The only type where there's no examples of it in the OU tier. That certainly tells the story of a disastrous type, doesn't it? Normal typing is the most plain typing in the game, of course, by design. It is called normal. But normal types have 0 resistances. They have 0 resistances and they also hit 0 types super effectively. It's a largely very neutral offensive type. Defensively, they have one benefit, which is that they are immune to Ghost. It's actually a great immunity. But they are also weak to fighting. That's their one weakness, is to fighting. Normal types are resisted by Rock and Steel. And Ghost types are immune to normal type attacks. And when you hear all of those traits said out loud, it would probably make perfect sense why normal types don't really thrive or rise to the top in competitive. They are pretty plain in what they can do. They don't provide meaningful advantages. It's not like being a normal type is a big bonus. Usually it's neutral, if not bad, to now be weak to fighting at the benefit of what? Your Ghost immunity can be good in some cases, but you gain nothing offensively, you gain very little defensively. Being a normal type just kind of stinks. It just kind of stinks. The current highest ranked normal type Pokemon in the game is Ursaluna, who is a UUBL ranked Pokemon, the tier in between OU and UU. And Ursaluna is a viable Pokemon in OU. It has a ground normal typing, and it is an incredible physical wall breaker. It has excellent defensive stats with 130 base HP, a great defense, and a serviceable special defense. Its attack is fantastic, base 140, and you can think that the normal type here is doing some stuff. The normal typing is sort of good. Normal typing can be okay alongside the ability Guts. Guts boosts your attack stat if you're a statist, and normal types get access to the great move Facade, which is 70 power but has double power if you are statist. So Guts and Facade complement each other well, and then normal stab on top of that results in Facade being a really, really strong move. Ursaluna was clearly designed around taking advantage of this great normal type attack to the best of its ability. And it helps that you have ground stab to hit both rock and steel super effectively, the types that you can't hit. Ursaluna is sometimes seen in OU as a wall breaker. It is also sometimes seen on trick room strategies, though those are more niche. But ultimately, Ursaluna is a bit outclassed by other wall breakers. Dark-type wall breakers tend to do better because their move of choice is Knockoff, which has a more permanent, lasting impact. Dark is more threatening and less prone to being stopped by an immunity, because nothing is immune to Dark. Ursaluna feels similar to the Pokemon Great Tusk, who is ground fighting type, and has the great combination of offense and defense too, but Great Tusk is faster, and it has the utility of Rapid Spin, and way better defensive merit from its typing. So Ursaluna is kind of being outclassed by a Pokemon who's not even trying to take its job. Great Tusk is not always used as a wall breaker, but it just is offensively so great by itself that it can be used that way in some situations. Ursaluna's really competing with a lot of powerful ground types, and, having Ghost immunity is valuable in a world where Dragapult is there, but you're also very vulnerable to Dragapult just clicking Draco Meteor. So it's not exactly the most useful thing on the planet, is it? You can punish them if they lock in with a choice specs to Shadow Ball, but overall, other ground-type Pokemon and other wall breakers are doing a better job than Ursaluna is. And even this Guts-boosted Facade is limited by the fact that Ghost types are immune. Wall breakers really want a spammable move. And a move is not spammable if a very common type is immune to it. You can't mindlessly click Facade. You cannot. Whereas you can mindlessly click Knockoff. The most successful normal type in the game historically has been Blissey. And Blissey is a pretty interesting case because I don't know if Blissey is exactly a point in favor of the normal type, because Blissey is great thanks to its astronomically high defensive stats. It has 255 base HP, which is truly through the roof, and then 135 special defense. Normal is just a convenient type for Blissey because it isn't weak to much. It only has one weakness to fighting. A neutral defensive type like normal is very beneficial on Blissey because its stats are where the defense comes from. It doesn't need any resistances when its stats are this good, and it can wall just about any special hit, whether it resists or not, which of course it won't resist. Blissey also has reliable healing, great utility, and an unmatched ability to just answer special walls. Blissey is still OU viable, it is just a bit passive for the Gen 9 metagame, and only really fits on stally teams, which aren't exactly the best or most popular archetype right now. Blissey will always have its place. It is the best and most effective special wall in the game's history. It's used in Ubers to answer special attacking legendaries, for goodness sake, and it always has been. I suppose this is an example of a functional defensive normal type, because if you have huge stats, being normal is really good because you don't need resistances. But I don't know if that means normal typing is good or Blissey just is really good. Probably just that Blissey's really good in particular. Beyond Ursaluna and Blissey, there is my personal favorite normal type to use in the Gen 9 OU metagame, Mousehold, a new one. Mousehold is one of the most comedic Pokemon ever released, a little family of mice. And Mousehold is interesting as a normal type because it has a signature move that is normal type, and it is an outstanding move called Population Bomb. This is a 20 power, 90% accurate move that hits 10 times. With the Technician boost and a wide lens to maximize accuracy, this can have an effective power of 300, which is absolutely through the roof. And even though Mousehold's attack is only 75, the pure damage output from Population Bomb makes up for that. Unfortunately though, that's kind of what balances this move, because it's a normal type attack, and it's a very limited attacking type. It has no effect on ghosts, and things resist it, especially Pokemon running Rocky Helmets, because each individual hit of this move will proc the Rocky Helmet. Mousehold can actually end its own life by simply clicking Population Bomb against a Corviknight, as they easily shrug off the damage with their resistance, and then each individual hit procs Rocky Helmet. So for a normal type offensive Pokemon like this, a novel one, to be viable, you have to make the move so much more powerful than everything else that it balances out the fact that it's a normal type move. If you think about it, if this move was any other half-decent type, it would be really broken, but this is what it takes for a normal type attack to be good, folks. This right here. Is you gotta make it literally 300 base power. Mousehold can be used in OU in fringe contexts, but I also think this is the perfect example of OU being a hostile environment for the normal type, because even when you make the most broken sounding move of all time, it still kinda sucks because it's a normal type attack. Even a move this insane sounding is bad because it's normal type. I think that says a great deal about the quality of normal typing. And the final relevant normal type in the OU metagame is Indeedee. Indeedee is a normal psychic type, and it is the last Pokemon left with the ability Psychic Surge. It is Tapu Lele Jr., because on Switch In this sets Psychic Terrain. And that is this Pokemon's primary claim to fame. If not for this, it would be a completely unremarkable Pokemon. But because it sets Psychic Terrain on the field, it is a Pokemon worth talking about. Psychic Terrain Hyper Offense is a pretty good strategy, because Psychic Terrain boosts the power of psychic damage and makes you immune to priority if you're grounded. So frail boost sweepers like Shell Smash, Poltegeist really like Psychic Terrain, as it makes them immune to, Sucker Punch and Bullet Punch, while buffing their stored power. And stored power deals a lot of damage with all those boosts. There are many Pokemon that synergize well with Psychic Terrain, and indeed he's the guy that sets it. And it happens to be a normal type. Is this just circumstantial? Kind of. Being a normal type does have the benefit here, actually, of granting Ghost immunity, which is really good when you're a Psychic type. Being a Psychic type kind of sucks, partially because you're weak to Ghost. Being weak to Ghost is terrible. Ghost is insanely common. So, Psychic Normal is a better typing than just Mono Psychic, for sure. You lose a fighting resistance, which is a small price to pay for Ghost immunity. So Indeedee having Ghost immunity gives it a little bit more opportunity to enter the field, makes it less threatened by things that other Psychic types will be threatened by. In this case, normal typing is actually good. What a surprise, giving normal typing to something weak to Ghost is a good way to use it. That's a good way to use it. It's a pretty minor part of what makes Indeedee good, but it is a relevant part at least, a little bit. normal typing is at least providing a benefit here. I personally believe that normal is the worst type in the game. Ice typing has offensive value, bug typing has limited defensive value, plus the utility access of sticky web. Normal typing, on the other hand, is completely unremarkable and often an active detriment. But there's no doubt, though, that these are the 3 worst types in the game, and they are similarly terrible. They're close. Sometimes it's hard to know whether these types failing in competitive is due to neglect or just inherent flaws that are impossible to overcome. In the case of the ice type, you could argue, well, if the type has no defensive value, why do they keep making defensive ice types? It's as if they're setting them up to fail. Many normal types just have normal thrown on, and it's to the point where you wonder, is normal type serving this Pokemon at all, or is normal just the default type they throw on to whatever they can't think of a type for? That's probably what normal is. It seems like it. Bug typing is a weird one thematically, because bugs are usually like the early game Pokemon that have low stats and are sort of designed to be bad. And this makes the type feel worse than it could be. In the case of Scizor, look how good bug typing was. Historically, bug typing can be good, with Pokemon like Forretress and Heracross having real competitive merit, but maybe they just keep designing bad bug types because that's how bug types feel. Like, a bug type shouldn't feel powerful. I don't know. Is the terrible reputation of the bug type a self-fulfilling prophecy? Maybe these types do deserve some buffs. I don't know, though. I don't think it's a huge problem for there to be a bit of imbalance in the type chart. I don't think that game design should be perfectly symmetrical. When everything feels exactly the same, these types start to lose their character and their individuality a little bit. And, we've seen ways that bug types can overcome their weaknesses when given appropriate abilities in secondary typings and stat distributions. I would maybe be in favor of some minor tweaks to these types. Ice could perhaps be given a resistance, or you could just give ice types thick fat more often or something, I don't know. It does feel a bit lame that only offensive ice types can work, with very few exceptions historically. The snow weather was an attempt to buff ice types defensively that I think didn't really work, so maybe they'll continue to try to alter these types and make them feel more purposeful in the next game. We'll have to see. For now, these are how these types operate in Gen 9, and those were examples of cases where the types do play to their strengths enough that they result in an OU viable Pokemon. Which is your favorite bad type? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you very much for watching.